Greetings. Old age is a stage of life filled with challenges, yet it is no less meaningful. It is a time when we face profound changes, declining health, shifting family roles, and moments of emotional emptiness. Alongside these transitions, many elderly individuals find themselves becoming more irritable, sometimes over seemingly trivial matters. This can stem from feelings of abandonment, a loss of control, or simply the fear of no longer being valued as they once were. We all know that anger doesn't just harm ourselves, it also damages our relationships with those around us, family, friends, and even our closest loved ones. But let me remind you, no one is bound by the limits of age. Change, growth, and living a peaceful life are within reach for anyone, no matter where they are on their life journey. So today, let's embark on a journey to explore simple yet effective ways to manage emotions, soothe anger, and rebuild loving connections. This is not just a path to inner peace, but also an opportunity to embrace a fulfilling and meaningful old age. Let's get started. And don't forget, if you find this video helpful, hit this subscribe button and turn on notifications to continue receiving valuable insights in the future. Now, let's dive into this journey together. First, let's listen to the story of Mr. George. In his younger years, Mr. George was a strict and principled man, but also a devoted father. He was well known among colleagues and friends for his decisiveness and strong discipline. Working in construction required precision and careful attention. So Mr. George demanded perfection, no mistakes, not even the smallest details. If you do it right, do it well, he would say. And this philosophy applied to both his work and his family life. He often enforced a strict schedule on his children, ensuring no homework was missed and that every dinner was a family event. These principles made his family well-disciplined, but also created a distance between him and his children. Whenever Jack, Emma, or Sam did something wrong, Mr. George would not hesitate to criticize, sometimes harshly, as he believed that strict discipline would shape strong and successful individuals. As time passed and he retired, those principles were no longer channeled into work, but were instead focused entirely on his personal and family life. He could no longer tolerate the disobedience of his children or any change around him. Everything had to be done his way, just as it had been for decades. This made Mr. George even more difficult to please when no one could meet his expectations. He failed to recognize that his children were now adults, with their own lives and choices, no longer dependent on him as they once were. And that was when things started to fall apart. Old age brings endless conflicts. Mr. George would sit in the living room every day, staring out the window, counting the falling leaves outside. The lonely days only sharpened his bitterness. He began calling his children repeatedly, sometimes just to ask questions like, "Why don't you call me?" Or, "Do you know your old parents need attention?" These questions, stemming from a father's yearning, came across as accusatory and suffocating, making his children reluctant to respond. Once, Emma brought her children over to visit him for the weekend. The mother of two had meticulously arranged everything to ensure a smooth visit, but Mr. George's temper ruined it all. Young Tom, Emma's youngest son, accidentally spilled a glass of water on the table, soaking Mr. George's papers. "Don't you know how to behave? Don't you know how to respect your elders?" Mr. George yelled, his face turning red. Emma hurriedly comforted her son and apologized, but Mr. George kept grumbling all evening. The family dinner became tense, and nobody spoke to one another. The next day, Emma packed up and quietly left early, knowing that this would likely be the last time she'd willingly visit him. For Sam, conversations with his father were no less uncomfortable. Mr. George criticized not only Sam's choice of profession, which wasn't what he had hoped for, but also intruded on even the smallest decisions in his son's life. One time, he visited the restaurant where Sam worked as a chef and had a meal. When Sam came out to greet him, Mr. George simply looked at his plate and complained, "Why didn't you cook this with less salt? What kind of chef doesn't know the taste of his customers?" Sam, having held back his frustration too many times, responded sharply this time, "Dad, this is my job. I know what I'm doing." Mr. George stormed out angrily, and from that moment, He never stepped foot in Sam's restaurant again. One day, Mr. George received a message from his eldest son. "Jack, I'm too busy. I can't visit this week." Reading the message, Mr. George shook his head, and his anger flared up again. "They don't care about me. Work, just an excuse." He picked up his phone to call Jack and complain, as he usually did. But this time, Jack didn't answer. Mr. George threw the phone on the table in frustration, staring at the ceiling, unable to understand why everyone seemed to be abandoning him. Gradually, each of Mr. George's days passed in silent loneliness. No more calls from his children, no more visits from his grandchildren. He began to realize he had lost the most important thing in life: family relationships. On one particularly quiet afternoon, as Mr. George sat in his wooden chair in the living room, gazing at an old family photo, in the picture, he's beaming, surrounded by his young children and his late wife. He wondered if his rigidity, temper, and constant criticism had pushed them all away. Had he been too harsh, too unwilling to understand his children's feelings? One winter evening, just after finishing his dinner and preparing for bed, Mr. George received a message from Sam. "Dad, I know you're lonely, but I have my own life too. I hope you can learn to understand and accept instead of just being angry. I still love you, but I can only love you from afar." Mr. George sat down in his chair, hands trembling as he placed the phone on the table. His heart felt shattered, and tears began to stream down his weary face. It was the first time he had cried in years, not out of anger, but because he realized he had lost the love of his children. Mr. George tried to change, but it was too late. Jack, Emma, and Sam all had their own families and concerns. He attempted to reach out gently through texts and calls to rebuild their bond, but soft words now felt foreign to him. Even more, his children no longer believed he would truly change. On a cold winter afternoon, Mr. George sat alone in his chair, looking out the window, reminiscing about the days when the house was full of laughter. He silently thought to himself, if only he had been more understanding, if only he had controlled his temper, maybe things would have been different now. But life doesn't offer if-onlys. And his temper had created an unbridgeable gap within the family. Dear friends, to control a temper and strive for a harmonious life, the first crucial step is to recognize and manage your own emotions. This may sound simple, but the reality is we often don't pay attention to what we're feeling. Anger and irritation often come unexpectedly and suddenly, sometimes over trivial matters. So how can we identify and adjust our emotions before they negatively impact us and those around us? This is where we need to explore how to listen to ourselves and manage those intense emotions in a healthier way. 1. Learning to recognize and manage your emotions. Learning to recognize and manage your emotions is crucial for elders to find greater peace and tranquility. As we age, it is common for temper and irritability to increase, partly due to changes in physical health, psychological state, and living environment. Negative emotions such as anger, frustration, and disappointment can easily flare up, affecting not only the quality of life of the individual, but also strongly impacting family and social relationships. Recognizing emotions first requires conscious self-observation. In his work, Nicomachean Ethics, philosopher Aristotle once said, "Anybody can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy." This highlights that anger is not always wrong, but the way we control and react to anger is what truly matters. For elders, recognizing when they are angry, understanding the reasons behind it, and determining how to respond are essential skills. In reality, when anger erupts, it often clouds judgment. Many elders may feel their outbursts are justified, believing that their children don't understand them or that society has changed too much for them to accept. However, realizing that anger might stem from inner insecurities, such as fear of loneliness, helplessness in the face of change, or even nostalgia for a time long gone, can help elders better understand their own emotions. Understanding that not all anger comes from external circumstances, but also from within is the first step toward managing and responding appropriately. Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in his work, Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." For elders, this advice can be applied by exploring their own thoughts and feelings more deeply. Whenever you feel angry, take a moment to be still, breathe, and think about the real cause behind that emotion. Often, anger stems from feeling abandoned, feeling unnecessary, or feeling powerless against uncontrollable changes. Understanding these causes helps you respond in a calmer and more rational way. Managing emotions is not just about suppressing anger, but also about facing it and handling it in a healthy manner. When anger erupts, people often react immediately, sometimes with a harsh tone, sometimes with words that hurt others. For elders, this can damage not only their own well-being, but also relationships with their children and grandchildren. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." If managed correctly, anger can be a powerful tool for self-discovery, learning self-control, and turning it into motivation to improve relationships. For example, when you feel that your children are not spending enough time with you, instead of lashing out and blaming them, calmly share your feelings, saying, "I miss you a lot and feel a bit sad that we don't have much time to talk," is more likely to receive understanding than complaining. "You never care about me." This approach not only helps you manage your emotions, but also opens the door for constructive dialogue. Managing emotions also requires self-acceptance and compassion for oneself. Many elders carry guilt for their angry outbursts, which only adds to their stress. Instead of blaming yourself, understand that anger is simply a part of human nature. What matters is that you learn to respond positively. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, said, "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you." Accepting that you will sometimes feel angry while knowing how to adjust that emotion will help you live a more peaceful and harmonious life. Moreover, recognizing and managing emotions brings mental and physical health benefits. Uncontrolled anger can increase the risk of high blood pressure, cardiovascular diseases, and long-term damage to the body. Learning to stay calm and maintain a positive attitude helps reduce stress, improves sleep, and enhances overall health. These benefits not only contribute to a longer life, but also allow elders to fully enjoy their later years. Overall, learning to recognize and manage your emotions is a skill that requires continuous practice. It's not about completely changing who you are, but about learning to live in harmony with yourself and others. It's a combination of mindfulness, patience, and self-love. When elders learn to listen to and understand their own emotions, they not only improve their personal quality of life, but also build better relationships with their children, friends, and society. 2. Changing perspective and focusing on compassion. Changing perspective and focusing on compassion is an important step for elders to reduce irritability and build better relationships with those around them. As we age, our view of life and the world often becomes more fixed. The principles, habits, and personal values built over many years can create a rigid mental framework. This can make it difficult for elders to accept differences, and they may easily become frustrated when things don't go their way. At this point, changing one's perspective and nurturing compassion can lead to positive shifts in mood and behavior. Changing perspective involves learning to view situations from various angles and finding a new, more open approach. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant once said, "We do not see things as they are, we see them as we are." In other words, each person has a unique perspective on the world based on their personal experiences, beliefs, and views. When an elder feels upset about a situation, for example, when they believe their children or grandchildren don't spend enough time with them, that frustration often stems from the perspective that they are unloved or unappreciated. However, by changing their perspective, they can consider that their children might be facing pressures and responsibilities in their own lives, which can help elders see things with more understanding, compassion, or loving kindness, is the ability to empathize with the feelings and struggles of others. This doesn't just apply to others, but also to oneself. When elders learn to focus on compassion, they become less angry and irritable, replacing these feelings with understanding, patience, and a willingness to share. The Buddha once said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." If elders can learn to view themselves and others through the lens of compassion, they will notice a positive change in both their spirit and behavior. One common scenario where elders often become easily upset is when they feel that their children or grandchildren don't respect or listen to their opinions. This can lead to feelings of being ignored or losing authority within the family. However, if they change their perspective, they may realize that their children and grandchildren belong to a different generation. With new experiences, technologies, and mindsets, they are not intentionally being disrespectful. They simply think and see the world differently. Instead of feeling hurt and reacting with anger, try to listen to and understand their perspective. This will help build a stronger bridge between the generations. Focusing on compassion also means learning to forgive and let go. French philosopher Voltaire once wrote, "To forgive is the highest, most beautiful form of love." Forgiveness is not just about forgiving others, but also about forgiving oneself, letting go of past mistakes, unnecessary anger, and hurtful words. In old age, compassion and forgiveness are ways to release oneself from negative emotions, replacing them with peace and love. Imagine you're at a family gathering, and your children and grandchildren are chatting and laughing, but their conversations don't involve you. In the past, you might have felt left out, thinking no one cares about your feelings. But when you change your perspective, you may realize that this is how the younger generation expresses joy and connects with each other. Instead of feeling abandoned, try joining the conversation by asking about their interests and sharing your stories with humor and lightheartedness. This not only creates opportunities to bond with your family, but also spreads compassion and love. Compassion is also reflected in how you treat yourself. When elders realize that they don't need to be perfect, that they have the right to make mistakes and change, they become more accepting of themselves. This change in perspective helps to reduce pressure and allows them to enjoy life and relationships in a genuine and relaxed way. This is crucial because aging often carries with it feelings of regret over what has passed and what hasn't been achieved. However, if one has compassion for themselves, they learn to forgive the past, focus on the present, and approach the future with a more positive mindset. A great example of changing perspective and focusing on compassion can be found in Paulo Coelho's book, The Alchemist. When you love, you become a part of the universe. When you hate, you become a separate entity. If elders learn to see everything with love and compassion, they will feel a deeper connection to their children, grandchildren, and the world around them, leading to a happier and more meaningful life. Changing perspective and focusing on compassion is a process that requires patience and practice. Each day, try to look at life with more tolerance and love. Take time to listen, understand, and allow yourself to find joy in the little things. When you open your heart to others with love and understanding, anger will no longer easily control you. You'll find that life in your later years, with all its precious experiences and relationships, can be far more beautiful than you imagined. 3. Cultivating a positive lifestyle and healthy activities. Cultivating a positive lifestyle and engaging in healthy activities are key factors that help elders manage irritability and find balance in life. As we age, both physical and mental health undergo significant changes, often leading to negative emotions like anger, anxiety, or a sense of loss. However, maintaining a positive lifestyle combined with healthy activities can lead to significant changes in one's outlook on life and help elders find greater happiness. A positive lifestyle is not just about having an optimistic mindset, but also about how you handle daily situations. Ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." This emphasizes that when you change the way you perceive a situation, you can also change your emotions and behavior. For elders, Maintaining a positive attitude doesn't mean ignoring difficulties, but learning to accept them and focus on the good things, the small joys in life. One of the most effective ways to nurture a positive lifestyle is to engage in healthy daily activities. First and foremost, gentle physical activities like walking, yoga, or meditation help improve overall health and provide relaxation for both body and mind. When you exercise, your body releases endorphins, a hormone that creates feelings of happiness and pleasure. This not only reduces stress, but also soothes bouts of anger. A study by Harvard University found that just 30 minutes of walking each day can reduce the risk of depression and enhance emotional regulation. Additionally, participating in social and recreational activities is a great way to nurture a positive mindset. By joining clubs, volunteering groups, or cultural activities, elders have the chance to meet and interact with others. This social connection not only reduces feelings of loneliness, but also brings joy and a sense of belonging. For example, by joining a book club or a dance group, elders can share common interests, exchange life experiences, and cultivate excitement, which helps reduce negative emotions. Henry David Thoreau, an American philosopher and writer, once said, "Live the life you have imagined." This means that elders should create a life they genuinely enjoy by engaging in activities that are meaningful and joyful to them. If they love gardening, they should spend time tending to flowers and plants. If they have a passion for music, they should take the time to listen to their favorite songs or attend concerts for seniors. Finding joy in simple things allows positive emotions to gradually replace feelings of frustration and irritability. An important part of nurturing a positive lifestyle is maintaining a healthy diet. The food that elders consume affects not only their physical health, but also has a strong impact on their mood and ability to regulate emotions. A nutritious diet rich in vegetables, fruits, fish, and nuts provides good energy and helps balance mood. At the same time, avoiding fast food, sugary foods, and alcoholic beverages helps to cleanse and stabilize both body and mind. Getting enough sleep also plays a crucial role in nurturing a positive spirit and emotional control. Lack of sleep can lead to increased stress and make the mind more sensitive to negative stimuli. Elders often struggle to maintain deep and long-lasting sleep. But by practicing good bedtime habits, such as avoiding electronic devices before sleep and practicing relaxation exercises, sleep quality can be improved, leading to calmness and a refreshed feeling upon waking. Moreover, establishing positive daily habits like reading, journaling, or practicing gratitude can also help foster a positive mindset. Writing down things you're grateful for each day or noting small joys you experience helps you focus on the good aspects of life. German philosopher Albert Schweitzer once said, "Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions." When elders practice gratitude and focus on the positives in life, they create their own happiness, which helps minimize anger and frustration. A prime example of this is Margaret, a woman living in San Francisco. After her husband passed away, she fell into depression and frequently became angry with her children and grandchildren. However, she decided to join a yoga class for seniors and a book club in her neighborhood. Every day, she would meditate, practice breathing exercises, and tend to her small garden. She also started journaling and practicing gratitude each morning. By nurturing a positive lifestyle and engaging in healthy activities, Margaret gradually found peace, joy, and calmness in her soul. Overall, a positive lifestyle and healthy activities not only bring physical health benefits, but also improve mental well-being, reduce irritability, and create a more meaningful life. By focusing on the good, cherishing every moment, and taking care of oneself inside and out, elders can build a life full of joy and tranquility, regardless of the challenges that come with age. Managing anger and fostering a positive lifestyle is a journey that requires patience and self-awareness, especially for elders whose moods are often influenced by physical and mental changes. However, by recognizing emotions, changing perspectives, and building healthy habits, elders can find peace, joy, and improve relationships with family and friends, choosing to live with compassion, tolerance, And a positive spirit makes the golden years not only easier but also meaningful and happy. After all, old age is a time to love yourself more, share with others, and fully enjoy life. In the final part of today's video, let's listen to the following story. Mr. Henry and Mrs. Martha, a couple in their 70s, live together in a small town in rural Virginia. They have been married for over 45 years, weathering many storms together and raising a happy family with 3 children who have all grown up and moved out. However, after retiring, as they spent more time together, their outspoken natures, irritability, and differing opinions became increasingly apparent. Mr. Henry is a strict, principled man. He was a mechanical engineer, demanding precision, discipline, and seriousness in everything. Mrs. Martha, on the other hand, is an open, sociable woman but has a quick temper when pressured. As she aged, she felt that time was running short, so she wanted to enjoy each day with lighter, more pleasant activities. Meanwhile, Mr. Henry continued to maintain a strict routine, expecting everything to be orderly, punctual, and by the book, just like before. Their everyday life was filled with trivial arguments about who would cook, who would tend to the garden, and Mr. Henry's constant complaints about Mrs. Martha not doing things the right way. Each time this happened, Mrs. Martha would get frustrated, and more than once she would shout, "Why does everything have to go your way? We're old now. Why can't we just enjoy a little comfort?" But instead of listening, Mr. Henry would respond even more harshly, blaming her for being irresponsible and not understanding the value of discipline. One Saturday afternoon, as the couple was preparing to drive to church for the weekend service, they got into another argument. As usual, Mr. Henry insisted that Mrs. Martha hurry up to leave on time. But that day, Mrs. Martha wanted to slow down a bit because she had just received a call from their youngest son in New York. She became absorbed in the call, laughing and sharing stories, forgetting that Mr. Henry had the car ready and was waiting by the door. When Mrs. Martha finally stepped outside, Mr. Henry was visibly angry. His face was red, and his eyes looked like they were ready to explode. He shouted, "Martha, you never respect time. I can't stand this sloppy, careless way of living. We're going to be late." Mrs. Martha, unable to contain herself, shot back, "Henry, you only care about rules and discipline. Have you ever considered my feelings? I just wanted to talk to our son. What's wrong with that?" The heated argument quickly escalated. Mr. Henry, in a fit of anger, got into the car, slammed the door, and yelled, "I'll drive off alone if you don't get in the car right now." In her frustration and anger, Mrs. Martha banged on the car door and said she wasn't going, telling him to go by himself. Mr. Henry, still furious, decided to drive away on his own, not stopping for Mrs. Martha to get into the car. On the drive to the church, filled with anger and frustration, Mr. Henry drove faster than usual. His mind was preoccupied with the argument, the harsh words, and his dissatisfaction with Mrs. Martha as he approached a curve on a narrow road. Distracted and driving too fast, he failed to notice an oncoming car. In an instant, he hit the brakes, but it was too late. Mr. Henry's car crashed into the other vehicle, causing a serious accident. He suffered severe injuries and was rushed to the hospital. When Mrs. Martha heard about the accident, she was overwhelmed with panic and regret. She rushed to the hospital, her heart aching as she thought of their argument and anger just hours before. Mr. Henry remained in the hospital for weeks, enduring the pain from broken bones and head injuries. As he recovered, he had to confront not only physical pain but also the heavy psychological consequences. He realized that his anger had caused him to lose control, resulting in an accident that could have cost him his life. Mrs. Martha also felt deep remorse, blaming herself for not trying harder to contain her temper and for contributing to her husband's dangerous situation. As you can see, anger is not just a fleeting emotion or a momentary argument. It can have unpredictable and harmful consequences both mentally and physically. Anger doesn't just make one feel frustrated and upset. It also hurts others, damages relationships, and can lead to dangerous situations. As in the story of Mr. Henry and Mrs. Martha, A moment of impulsive anger resulted in a serious accident, forcing them to face deep pain and regret. Therefore, learning to control anger, finding calmness, and understanding one another better not only leads to a more harmonious life, but also protects loved ones from unfortunate consequences. In the end, anger never brings anything good. It only damages relationships and makes life more stressful. Moments of uncontrolled anger can lead to consequences we may deeply regret later. That's why learning to manage emotions, staying calm in challenging situations, and opening your heart to differences are the keys to living a peaceful, happy life while preserving the meaningful relationships that matter most. Remember, when you let go of anger, you not only make your own life lighter, but also spread positive energy, creating harmony and love in the relationships around you. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss more valuable insights in the future. Thank you for watching and being here with us. See you in the next video.